So let me show you real quick here. Oops, let me go back. I'm going to go to my Epicor image and I'm going to show you an example of the field help real quick. If anyone is not familiar with it, this is actually a really cool tool and you can actually see it in any Epicor form. So I'm just going to show you real quick. So this is the sales order entry screen. And if I go to help, then I have field help and it's going to pop up an option here on the left-hand side in a second. I'm going to pin this because if you don't pin it, it just, hides automatically. So basically, let's say that I want to have the PO number, of course, very important in my BAQ. So the field help tells you what this field is, right? Of course, it's the customer PO. We know that. But what we are interested in is this section down here called the technical details. And actually, more specifically, we're interested in this DB field. This is actually table dot field. So we know that we definitely need the order head table and we definitely need the PO number field. So if you are just starting out with BAQs, my recommendation is to play with this in the forms that you need the information from and make a little list. So just write down, okay, I need order head PO num, and then I'm gonna need this field that's called order date. And of course, if I change the tab here, I'm gonna need the part number. So you will notice that this changes the table. So of course, now we need to have order head table and then order detail. I need the part number, I need the order quantity, and you can just, start taking a look at the fields you need and make your list. Let me show you. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. All right, so now that you guys have an idea of which fields you need, the next important thing is how to join the tables. Now, I've been working with the BAQ since Vantage 8, and I love it because Epicor has done an excellent job at, adding more and more features to the software, especially in the BAQ. And before, you actually had to know all of these joins. You needed to know that the first join that you always have to do in any between two tables is company. You always have to join by company. And then, of course, the next index fields. So now in newer versions, Epicor actually does that automatically for you, which is really cool because if you put in the order head table and then you add the order detail table, it's going to automatically join it by company, order num. So for people that don't have a lot of experience in building BAQs, I think this is really cool. But also you do have to be careful because not necessarily the join that Epicor gives you is the one that you want or you need for your BAQ. So just something to point out there, but 90% of the times, if it's something simple, then of course you're gonna want the join that Epicor suggests that you use. Okay, so going into the updatable BAQ and the way they work is once you mark a BAQ as updatable, this actually allows the query to have some business object methods that are automatically in there connected to the query, and it allows you to create, edit, or delete records. And, of course, this will update the database. So that's why this is very important that you guys know what you're doing, because if you accidentally, put an order on hold or a customer on credit hold or change a part or quantity, you are actually updating the database. Even if you're working in the BAQ and it's not necessarily already presented into a dashboard, you are updating the database already. So basically, a business object or a BO, which you will see a lot in the Epicor technical world, has a lot of methods that it uses to, play with the data. basically any action that a business object can take is called a method. So for example, we have the sales order business object, and our updatable BAQ is going to have get list, get new, or update ext. So if you're just changing fields in the database, which is what we're going to do with this example, we are going to use the update ext method. But for example, let's say you want to create an updatable dashboard that's going to allow you to create sales orders and lines by using Excel, for example, you can use the get new method. So when you're building an updatable BAQ, what you're going to do is create the BAQ the same way you would create any other BAQ and define which fields are going to be updatable, because you can add fields to the BAQ. And then you're going to decide, you know what, company is not going to be an updatable field, but you need to have it because that's how you join the table. And then, of course, not all of the rest of the fields that you want to display perhaps on the dashboard are going to be updatable. So in this case, I chose the sales order header object, and I'm going to show you the BAQ in a second. And I'm just going to choose the default method, which is update ext. And when I test the BAQ in the business activity query program, remember that any change I make will be updated to the database. So I don't recommend you doing this in your live database, but perhaps in test, because any changes you do in the BAQ will affect the data. All right, so what I did for this updatable dashboard is I created actually it's 2 UBAQs and 1 normal BAQ. And a tip that I have for you if you're starting out creating the updatable BAQs is I really recommend that before checking the updatable checkbox, I recommend that you build the BAQ first. And what I mean is, add all the tables that you need, add all of the fields that you need, add all of the joins, criteria, anything that you need before checking the updatable checkbox. Because what happens if you check the updatable checkbox, and let's say you're joining order head and order detail, you're not sure and you want to make sure that it's okay, you have to save, right? So it won't let you save. It won't let you save until you select which fields are going to be updatable, and also, what method are you going to use, and if there's some fields that need an expression, you need to fill that out as well. So you'll just get overwhelmed and have to uncheck the updatable checkbox. And when you're ready, then, go back and check it as updatable. That's my tip to you, because it's actually very tedious to correct or add fields once you have created the updatable BAQ, because you have to regenerate it and you might get confused. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend you build the query first and then come back and check it as updatable. So let me show you the 3 BAQs that I created. Okay, and I actually opened them up here and I have them listed under here so I can go through each one. So the first one that I created is one for the order head table, because going back to the use case in the EDI world, one of the things that we need to change sometimes is the need by and the ship by date, because sometimes the dates either are wrong or are definitely unreachable, that your company cannot meet the criteria. So those fields are located on the order header, and those are the fields that I selected as updatable. So another common error, which I didn't check this time, I didn't add it as an updatable field, but I also see a lot of issues with the ship tos in the EDI world. Why? Because sometimes they send you the wrong address, the wrong zip code, anything like that, and it'll mess up the entire process. So those kinds of things also, you need to check them. So what I did is I did add those fields so you can view them. but I did not set them as prompt, which means that you can, modify them. So basically what I did is I followed my own little tip and I created my BAQ first, and then I went back to the general screen and I checked this very powerful updatable checkbox. So basically what I did here is I joined, let me make this bigger for everyone, maybe it'll be just a little bit small. So what I did is I joined the order head to the customer table. And if I click on the joins, this is what I was telling you before about the joins. So if I click here on this data dictionary button, this is what I was telling you that Epicor created now. So you can also join by the bill to customer number. So in this case, I just went with the normal join, which is customer, but sometimes customers might have a bill to customer number, and that's the one that you want to show on the BAQ. So like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that what Epicor presents to you as options is necessarily what you need. So you need to make sure that the joins that you are choosing are correct. That is another reason why I mentioned the fact that you shouldn't check the updatable checkbox until you're sure about your query, you're sure about what information is showing up, you don't have any duplicates, things like that, because then it's very tedious to fix and be going back and forth. So if you were to choose this, all you would have to do is click, replace and query. So after that, I went ahead and added the ship to table because like I mentioned, ship tos are something major in the EDI world and where I see a lot of errors and things going on with the ship tos. So I also wanted to have that information in there because, just to know where are things going. I actually added, okay, so the criteria that I added here is, of course, I only want open orders. The reason that I added here is because, of course, I'm working in an Epicor education database, so I just used some of the orders that were already there and I altered them to make them look like they were EDI orders by changing the date to today and then just, marking them as on hold. So basically, in the Epicor Updatable BAQ, if you just click Analyze, you don't get any errors. This is what I was talking to you about before, where anything I click in here is actually going to update the database. So I had already selected my options in the update. So if I double click on any of these rows, these are the fields that I selected to be updatable. So if I change this and then click the update button, it's actually going to update the database. So that's why I was mentioning before, just be very careful in which database you're working in so you don't run into any issues like this. If I go to the update tab, this is where you mark which fields you want to be updatable. In this case, I just want to remove from hold. And this request date is actually called the ship by date. One of the things that I learned from your friend, the technical field help. So, and then need by date, of course, is the need by date. So in the update processing tab is where I chose the sales order business object, and the default method for updating is the update ext, and this is the one that I chose. So of course you can even build your own business your own methods here and do other types of stuff in the database, like populate fields or create some formulas and functions. So that's why Epicor for the cloud multi-tenant doesn't like for you to have the checkbox for the BPM advanced user, because if you don't know what you're doing, it can be very dangerous for your database. So that's for that query. The second one that I created is the detail. Why did I create them separately? Because I was thinking that it would be more efficient if I was updating just one method or business object at a time. It very well could be that one of my sales orders that came in is perfect and I don't need to update anything, or maybe I just need to update the lines, not necessarily the header. So that is why I decided to do it in 2 BAQs, but of course you could do it also in one. Also because I was kind of visualizing my dashboard and I actually want to have the list of orders, and then based on the order that I select, I want to see the lines. So to do that, I do need to have the 2 BAQs separately, and I will show you the final product at the end. And you'll probably understand what I mean by then. So if I go back to the query builder, you'll notice that I have the order head table in here. Why did I add that in here? It's because when I went to the update general properties, you know, it was complex for me to just have the order detail on its own, because then I would have to let Epicor know, or this update fields know, where am I pulling the order number from. And since I only wanted open orders, then that way I can just join the order head table here. In the order detail table, I don't have the open order checkbox. I do have a checkbox for order detail that's called open line, but you know that sometimes I can have an open order that has some closed lines and some open. So that's why I decided to do it that way. But you could always just have the order detail table in here, but it would be a little bit complicated with the update method. So basically what I did here is I also selected this different business object, which is the sales order header detail, because it's gonna update the detail lines, but it's tied to the sales order header. And of course I used again the same update method, update ext. And this time the fields that I selected to be updatable are the unit price and the order quantity. Those are the most common things that I see that need to be corrected, because actually some of the, okay, so in the EDI world, if the part number is wrong, it won't convert it to a sales order. It will be stuck in the demand workbench, which that program is one of the demand management modules, a program that shows you the errors of the orders that came in. So I would never see a sales order with a wrong part number. And of course, because Epicor won't allow it to import it with the wrong part number, or a part number that is not part of their contract. So that's why I didn't add those fields. But if you are using this updatable dashboard for another type of use case, you can definitely add the part number, and you can make that updatable and maybe create sales orders by using Excel, and just, you know, if you have 100 lines, instead of entering them manually, you can definitely do it with the updatable dashboard as well. So basically, again, if I go to the Analyze tab, make sure I have no errors, then Get List. So you'll see here that I have more rows, because these are actually all of the sales order lines in Epicor that are open right now. So of course, in my dashboard, I'm only filtering by the trading partner that I'm working with, but this is what I was talking about, having 2 separate queries for my dashboard, because if I only have one, then I'm going to have to go through each line, and visually, to me, it was easier and made more sense to have the order header in one tab. And then depending on the sales order number that you select, you will see displayed the lines for that sales order. To me, it's a cleaner way of looking at it, but you can always have the entire list and just go through all of it. Depending on the number of orders that you get is also why I decided to do it this way. So again, if you double click on any of these rows, you'll see that these are the fields that I selected to be updatable. So if I change the price, click OK and click update, it's going to update the database. So for example, and you'll always get a warning from Epicor, you know, when you click update, may cause data update in the database. This says may cause because if you have an error in how you set up the updatable query, it might not do anything. So if I click yes, this will actually update it to the price that I just selected. And we have no errors. The third query that I created is a very simple one and it's not updatable. It's just for visual information to have in the dashboard. And that one is actually called total order number. I find it easier, especially in the EDI world, to know that you have to go over 20 orders versus 150. It just helps you plan your day better and see if, you know, can you get out of this meeting or the other, because you have to take a look at 150 orders with their specific lines, and that can take a while. So all I did is basically add a field, a calculated field that's going to give me the total orders for today that are open. So I just put a criteria here where order date equals today. So when I was building this, yes, I panicked a little before our webinar because my dashboard didn't show anything, because yesterday when I was playing around with this, I had this as constants tomorrow because the order of the dates are for October 29th. So I just had to come in here and make that quick change and everything was good. Let me go back. All right, so now that you have your updatable queries and you are ready to build the updatable dashboard, so let's talk a little bit about updatable dashboards. So these are just an extension to what a standard dashboard can do. Basically, it's just a placeholder for the UBAQs. And the cool thing about this is that you can create this into a client dashboard, which means, you know, it's a program in your Epicor software. You can add a menu item for it, or you can even turn it into a mobile device dashboard. So for example, if you have people who are out in the field or sales reps, you can create an updatable dashboard to create sales orders perhaps, and then they can just update the information really quickly on an iPad, a tablet. So a dashboard, once you mark it as updatable and you deploy it and it converts into a .dll program, it will actually behave just like a standard Epicor form, because it will allow you to update data right there from the form. And actually, you can also customize any deployed dashboard, whether updatable or not. And that's pretty cool because besides the fact of all of the things that you can do in a dashboard, you can also add some customization to it. So how to build the updatable dashboard is you will add the query to the dashboard. The most important thing is that whenever you add a query to a dashboard, it creates automatically what is called a list view. So it's just basically a grid view or a list view of all of the fields in that query, and it creates it automatically. Of course, you can get rid of it. You don't need to use it if you don't want to. But in that list view, you need to mark another little powerful checkbox there that's updatable. That way you can select also which fields you're going to be marked as updatable. And you'll notice that in the dashboard, I'll show you only the fields that you selected as updatable in your UBAQ will be available as options. You can select the other fields if they're not marked as updatable in your UBAQ. In order to test an updatable dashboard, you actually need to deploy it. And I put it in quotes because when you are going to deploy an updatable dashboard or any kind of dashboard, there's a little button there that says test. So test the dashboard that way, see if it's the way you want it to work before actually deploying it. Another new cool feature that I've been talking about is the uptake from Excel feature. So now when you deploy the dashboards, if you go to the actions menu, like you would in an Epicor form, you have an option there called uptake from Excel. So it's pretty cool because you can download stuff to Excel and then upload it and it will update the database. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I did to create the updatable dashboard. A tip that I can give you when you're building dashboards is publish and subscribe. Those are very cool features because you can accomplish things like the one I'm going to show you where depending on the order that you are selecting, it will display the list of fields, the list of order detail lines based on the order selected. So that's done with publish and subscribe because I'm publishing the sales order number and then I'm filtering on the sales order lines to just show the sales order lines that belong to that sales order. In here, you'll see a picture of the updatable checkbox that I was talking about. And of course, the prompt that allows you to select which fields are going to be updatable. And you can see that the ones that are allowed to be updatable are in white and the rest are grayed out. So you can't necessarily check them. So let me go and show you the updatable dashboard. All right. So when you create a dashboard for the first time, it actually asks you to, you know what, I probably already have it. Yeah, here it is. So in the general tab, it actually asks you to add a query before you can even save. So what I did is I added the queries first, you know, made the publish and subscribe. So when you see a little antenna pointing out, that means that something is getting published out. And you can also publish stuff from the list view, not necessarily just from the BAQ. So if I go to properties and then I go to publish, you can see that I'm publishing the order number. What does that mean? That whenever my mouse is selecting any of these rows, it's publishing the order, which means it's, you know, showing that that's the one that you're selecting. This will only show the order number at the top, but I didn't add it for this case. So I'm publishing out the order number. And based on what I select here, you can see that it's populating on the right-hand side the lines for that order number. So what I did to accomplish that is this order detail section, and let me move. I don't know if you guys have that in the way, but I'm just gonna move it. Okay, so if I right click on this properties, and these are the properties for the grid view, because I don't necessarily want to filter for the BAQ because I might use the BAQ for something else. So what I did in the filter is I said, okay, the order head order number from this query of the order detail is going to be equal to this query's order head order number. And it means the line that I have selected is published. So any line that I have selected up here is going to show the results down here. That's why if you take a look at my order line section, I don't have the order number in here. To me, it would be redundant because I already know and I trust that whatever I select over here, it's going to populate the lines. And that way it's less fields and I'm just looking at whatever I'm interested in, which is the line number, part, and you know, these fields over here. You can see here that I marked this as updatable as well, because I definitely want to be able to update those fields. And you can see here what I was mentioning about the prompt. So I can't check these. These are grayed out because these are the only ones that I marked as updatable in my UVAQ. And of course, I want to show summaries in case I want to add up, you know, what the order quantity is for that order. You could also add another gauge, say, for example, for the total order quantities for a part, or, you know, the amount, anything that you can think of that's going to help you out for that. And then this VAQ that I have here is the one for the total number of orders. So if I select this, and I'm just going to do a count. Oops, sorry, this is really small, so it doesn't show. You can see that, of course, indeed, I have 28 orders. So to me, it was important to have this number down here and big, because that way I know, okay, I have to deal with 28 orders now. I know that's going to take me about an hour and a half, and I can plan my day easier, because when I come in the morning and I launch Epicor, this is the first thing that I want to show up, and this is what's going to mark my day. So this just shows us the total number of orders. So now that you have your grid views or list views and your gauge here organized, basically you are ready to deploy the dashboard. So this is the test button that I was telling you before. If you go to Tools and then click on Deploy Dashboard, you're going to see this button here that says Test Application. So before I deploy the Smart Client, add it as a menu, add it as a favorite, you can click here, and this is for any type of dashboard, not just Updatable. And it's going to open up another window with how your deployed dashboard is going to look like. All right, so I have this set to auto refresh on load. That's why everything showed up, but you can definitely remove that and just refresh at your own convenience. So let's say, for example, you know what? Okay, this order, this PO number, yeah, this looks good. The lines look good. You know what? I'm ready to remove that from hold. So you're just gonna remove it from hold, and you're gonna hit save. Now, I do want to mention that I did not add a filter for only orders that are set to hold, but I can definitely add that filter, and that way it will be removing the rows of the orders that I already have removed from hold. In this case, I do want to have these in here because you never know if you want to follow up with customer service, say, hey, did you, for this order number, did you already, you know, send the acknowledgement? Is it ready to be shipped? You know, just for follow-up during that day that I want to be able to take a look at these orders and not lose them and then go back and say, oh, what were the order numbers? Who knows? Because you can see that they're not sequential at all. So if I just check this again is on hold, I can, and it'll just save. Now let's say that this line number, okay, no, this price, this is not the price that I want. It's actually 27. And quantity, no, we can only make one for you, sorry. So then you just hit save, and it'll automatically save any changes that you make. If you go to the actions button, this is what I was talking about, the uptake from Excel. So you can see you can have that as there as well in there. So let's say you're ready, you look at this, it looks good. So we're going to close this, and then you're just going to click on Deploy Smart Client. And I actually want to add it as my favorite and as a menu item because, like I said, every day in the morning, this is what I want to look at to start my day. This takes a little bit, and once you see this marked as finished, you're going to click OK. Close this. So as you can see here, if I go to favorites, oh, where did I go? Let me move this. Under dashboard assemblies, I have my EDI orders dashboard, and also I have it over here as a menu item. So that way, when I'm working in Epicor, I can just move this. I can just take a look at this and be going back and forth to other things that I want to do.